Landscaper brings me his truck, and he says that he's just had another shop put him an engine, but he's thinking the oil temperature's too much. First thing I notice, got a big old fifth wheel hook up there in a landscaping truck, and I'm thinking maybe he's overworking the current situation, so to speak. Maybe he needs additional add-ons like oil coolers, tranny coolers, things like that to take some of that heat out of that oil. First thing we're gonna do, Tyson, what are we gonna do?
We're gonna test drive, monitor, see what his temps are and what they're reading.
And verify his conditions. Yeah. Go from there. Let's go check it out. Tyson.
Yes.
Tell me about this truck. The motor was built by another shop.
Yeah.
And the guy's complaining about high oil temps or something like that?
Yeah, he's saying it's running at 230 degrees.
And is that under like, did he give any kind
He just says at idle, so I need to gather a little data and then watch to see, does it fluctuate and move? Does it stay static?
You've been yelling at your kids, dude. Your voice
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things on a 7.3, it doesn't have a coolant temp sensor for scanner data, so you don't have a nice comparison to look at. So
you're gonna just use like a temp gun?
Temp gun, or you listen for the fan clutch to engage so you can hear what's going on, because he says he's had 2 oil coolers done. Mm-hmm. So what brand, where they got them from, I don't know.
So he's getting up at 230. Mm-hmm. We don't know whether that's under a heavy load or anything like that.
After he's driven it.
And we don't know what the variance is between his coolant and his oil. Because we don't have that data.
No.
Because of the year, make, and model of the vehicle.
Yep.
He hasn't added that through his tuner, his information.
Nope, he doesn't. No.
Because that's really what you're after. You want to make sure that your temp doesn't vary about 20 degrees.
It's around there. And then what mods have been done to the engine that might be increasing his oil temps to where a aftermarket auxiliary cooler would be a good add-on or addition.
Right, like an air instead of a water to coolant.
Air to oil.
Yeah.
Do one with a fan, or you can put one in the front. I know that there's other companies that make an elimination so you can go only air on a 7.3.
A lot of people out there, we're talking and discussing this, but join me with this. The best you can hope with an oil to cooling system is what your coolant temp is. I mean, think about it. If you're using your coolant to cool your oil off, you're not going to get it any colder than the hot coolant. So when you have situations where you want to kind of get away from that and you want to add some even additional cooling to it, the only way you can do that is to get an air to oil cooler, because your air temperature, even on a hot day in Arizona, is going to be 120 degrees, which is going to be cooler than your coolant temperature. You'll just need a bigger surface to dissipate the heat. You know, you really want to like talk to your customer about, say, what's your needs here? You're pulling something. I mean, this looks to me like just some truck that he likes to drive around.
Yeah, what tune has he got on it? Yeah. Is he running hot? You know, what engine temperatures is he building?
Okay.
So.
Well, all right, let's get into it. I got this new scanner. I'm kind of leery about that stuff. You know, I like my old tools, the same old ones. Kind of like to know if this one that's cheaper, because this one would be like somebody could buy this one. It's not a big investment. I mean, it might be a good mechanic or a do-it-yourselfer scanner. Yeah. I just want to know, comparatively, did it give you as much information as the really expensive one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's a little tablet.
Yeah, so check it out.
And it's wireless dongle. That's nice.
Yeah,
Bluetooth.
That's what I thought. And the retail price of this is actually quite reasonable. I got to look it up, but I thought it comes with a protective case. It's got a camera. I mean, it's a nice tablet. Let's go see how it fires up. You good?
Yeah, let me get it ready here. Let me unplug his stuff.
Oh, yeah. Don't give him our password, Tyson.
I'll do the
whole world our
I'll do the guest Wi-Fi.
I guess because the dongle will automatically identify the VIN number.
On most new ones, yeah.
It comes with over 38 reset functions too, dude. You know, and you need that. You don't just need a code reader. That's where a lot of these scan tools fall off. They're just code readers. And according to them, dude, it's got advanced diagnostic feature for the Audi Fiat line. Ooh. and Chrysler. Dealer level scan tool stuff.
Okay, lights up. See our blue lights on. We're connected. Let's go to diagnosis. Let's see, there's auto scan, control unit. We're going to go to the control unit, PCM. Okay, we'll go to live data. Okay, so here it shows you your values, your range. You scroll through here. So this does it in alphabetical order. There it gives you a gauge option view. There it gives you a bar graph. So while you're driving it, there's another bar view. And then it also gives you an option for a trigger alarm. So it'll let you know if you hit a certain value. So you can select here, and then it gives you options for viewing, to record. That's a nice option when you need to test drive and review your data. So here it's showing me two different datas. One's green, one's blue. Well, we'll keep playing around with it and see what other features are available.
So Tyson,
Yeah.
you know, at first when I was looking at the truck from up front,
Yeah.
I thought it was just like a regular truck driving around. No, dude. Did you see what the title is on the back of this truck?
I believe he said landscaper.
Yeah, dude, he's a
on the side.
landscaper. And he's got a fifth wheel attached in the back there, so that tells you he's hauling some heavy like
stuff.
excavators or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he's loading this thing up, man.
Hey.
What are you finding out?
So it takes a while. I'm waiting for this gauge to show up. Yeah, as soon as that comes up, I'm going to document that temperature reading, turn it off, hook up this scanner, see if it's the same or different. So I have that, and then continue watching it with the R-scan tool to see what the temperatures are.
But yeah, look here, this guy's hauling some heavy stuff with that big old fifth wheel attachment in here. I'm sure he's working the heck out of that motor. You got the imager gun? Why don't you grab that?
I haven't yet. Let me get it. Okay, it's displaying data now, Dave.
What's that?
It's displaying data now.
Finally. Rev it up a little bit.
It says 104 for oil temp.
Well, we got about 100 coolant temp. Yeah, I'm 106, 107. Go look real quick. Tell me what you got. I'm 106, 107.
I'm 105.
Yeah, and it says 107, 108 here. So you're 2 degrees within there. Let's go take it for a ride.
All right. So he's not getting excessively hot, but because of his modifications, he's creating more heat. So he just needs an auxiliary cooler to help offset what the factory cooler can't dissipate.
And this scan tool, are you as happy with the information off of it as you are as, the ones that cost us $10,000, $15,000?
It's pretty nice. It has a nice graph feature.
I know, I was noticing
and it
that,
lets
dude.
and it records, so you can go back and review. So here I have selected the RPM and the oil temp. So the RPM is the green line, the blue is the oil temp. It works really nice for the high pressure fuel. You can watch the lines follow themselves.
That's a lot of good information for the cost that you're paying for this thing. I mean, they've come a long way, man. Aftermarket scan tools.
You want me to tell a little thing I heard on the radio while we're driving? Funny thing I heard. So I was up early Saturday, and KSL has their Saturday morning shows. It's the garden show's the only one I'm awake for, but they have an automotive one.
You're an old guy.
I know.
You're listening to a garden show on Saturday
Well,
morning.
I was listening to KSL, and that's what's on.
Okay.
And they have an auto talk show that it's on Normally I'm not awake that early, but I was up. And they were telling a story about a guy that complained about his AC not working. And they're like, well, it blows cold every time we're looking at it. Well, the guy thought by having it on max AC, it was killing his gas mileage. He didn't understand that all that did was made the recirculate door close, which actually makes the AC more efficient. Yeah. So it's a funny little story that I remember because I see max AC right there. But the misconception that the person had, you know, oh, I thought if I use that, my gas mileage would go terrible, and blah, 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 you know.
Well, be kind. People don't.
I know.
I don't know all the buttons on my iPhone. For God crying out loud, dude.
But that's why all the newer vehicles, they use the recirc symbol instead of max AC.
Where's our temps, dude?
We are at 176, 177. There's another story from Weber State that they had this lady.
Really, dude? You're going to do this to me?
Yeah, why not? We're on a drive. Unless you want to the radio.
I'm being freaking tortured. I'm still in shock that Tyson's listening to the garden show on a Saturday morning, so I'm trying to absorb that right now. Do we have a trans temp on that?
I can get it.
Can you add that to the screen? And
I should be able to.
How many channels can you put up there, dude? What's our tranny temp?
134.
Oh, that's sweet. He said he's got that aftermarket tranny cooler on here, which I told him was a great idea. What's our oil temp?
214.
Now it should, I'm going to get off the freeway here, and it should go up for a little bit. Just, why don't you tell me what it goes to?
15.
And that'll tell me how much that cooling system's really recirculating and how high that goes when you come off, and you don't have any of that airflow going through that radiator or any of your coolers.
215.6.
That's pretty good, dude. Oh my gosh. Ah, this is a problem. And then it clears up. This guy's tune that he's got on here, he's got that dang black smoke on acceleration, man.
.4, so just went up after that hard acceleration.
How fast does it dissipate?
It's at 219.2 now. 221.
What's my tranny temp?
134.
Well, the thing cleans right up when he gets up to speed, but that acceleration, black smoke, man, that's just like, why don't you throw money out the window? Not good. You know, people sometimes think, I guess they think that that's giving them more power, but it's not. And the other thing is, it's just destroying the engine. You know, all that additional soot that the oil and the rings have to deal with, even if you're doing things you shouldn't be doing. It just, there's no positive to it. It's all negative. What's my temp?
We are 226 on oil and 143 on trans.
Yeah, if he wants to get that heat dissipated, and you know, with his fifth wheel on this thing and, you know, pulling heavy equipment,
yeah,
that's what he needs to do. Put an auxiliary air to oil cooler on it, take another 30 degrees out of that, don't you think?
Yeah.
Be interesting to see. We had to do it, and then let's check it out.
They pitched him the option of a complete delete or doing an auxiliary.
What do you mean a delete?
So, you know how bulletproof, they'll completely remove?
I got you.
Same thing where it'll bolt.
So completely eliminate
the water to.
I wouldn't do that, and you know why I wouldn't do that? Because we're in cold weather.
Well, that comes with the thermostat, so it doesn't open until 180.
Huh.
So that's what they do on the 6.0 for the 6.0s.
They totally eliminate it?
Totally eliminate it, and then do that. They do the remote oil filter if you want, and then it has the big air cooler with a thermostat, so the oil heats up for cold weather.
In the winter, you want to get heat into that oil as fast as possible. And I actually think running it through the cooling system would get it heated up faster But that'd be interesting to know. Would it do it faster, still running some of that oil through the cooling system, through the heat exchanger, with the cooling system doing it, or would just the thermostat on the air exchanger be as quick?
Yeah.
The question here is, what would be better in this type of climate in Utah where we have a pretty good winter, not like the Northeast or anything like that, but where you want to get that heat into your oil as quick as possible, the oil cooler where it's engine coolant to oil cooler heat, or would you want to totally eliminate that and just go with a thermostat on the oil cooler lines and make it just air to oil cooler? Anybody got information on that, real data? I'm going to be looking for your comment.
It just dropped to 222.
And our tranny temp is a 145. That's way acceptable. Everything's functioning well. I think what he has here is he's taxing the system with more than it was designed to handle with his fifth wheel on this thing, and pulling, Parley's Canyon. That thing eats semis, for lunch, man. Not a fan of his exhaust. Yeah, I feel like an idiot too, man. I don't like to see that coming out of a pipe when I'm behind a car. I'm like, thanks for that. Nice headshot, a big old bong hit of freaking carbon. I think what we do is just, tell him if it's working correctly.
Yep.
And recommend the auxiliary oil cooler, air to
Bring
oil.
his temps down, yep. The scanner gave us the info we needed.
Yeah, the scanner was actually pretty cool. Cool. We're looking at your truck, and we've spent over an hour on it, test driving it, verifying temperature readings and things like that. Your complaint of over 200, getting at 230 degrees, you don't have a way to tell your water temperature, which is kind of a problem, but as best I can tell it now, I've used a thermo imaging gun to verify your coolant temp, and it's pretty close to what your oil temp is, around 200 under a heavy load. I have not hooked up, because I don't have a fifth wheel that would hook to your thing, but being a landscaper, are you seeing those temperatures when you're towing a piece of equipment or something?
So normally I would be. Where we found those temperatures, because we're based out of Bluffdale, so I would just be going around the point of the mountain on I-15 right there between Draper and Lehigh, going 70 miles an hour, empty truck, and I was hitting 220, 225 on a 65, 70 degree day a couple weeks ago. Yeah,
everything's functioning correctly. There's nothing wrong with the engine, except this. You've got a tune in it, I'm thinking, and you're overfueling the heck out of it. So you're tearing up your engine. All that extra black smoke you're getting, you want to get rid of that because that's one of the worst things you can do to a diesel is overfuel it like that, because you're building up soot, in your ring pack.
When I was hitting those temperatures, it was on no tune. We're at the stock setting on that Bully Dog. Because I don't know what it came into you on that. I don't know what the other shop was.
I've got it on the stock. I've got it on the stock setting. I was going to ask you that Bully Dog tuner too. What's the deal with that thing taking forever and a day to boot up? Has it always been like that?
No, I haven't updated it since I purchased it, which has been a few years, so I'm sure that's probably part of it.
Yeah, I was like, wow, I couldn't believe how long it took to boot up. But anyway, let me get back to your oil temp stuff, because it looks to me like you've had a transmission cooler put on there, and it looks like
new transmission too.
Yeah, it looks like a pretty nice cooler, so that all looks good, which is excellent. The more temperature you can take out of your units, the better off they are. And tranny fluid is unforgiving when it gets hot. Your oil temp, 230 is not. It's not really 225, 230. I wouldn't be worried about it unless it's more than your coolant temp. Now, I've noticed also you've got like a Mishimoto. I don't know what type of radiator, but an aftermarket big old aluminum radiator.
Yeah, we just put that one on like 2 weeks ago to get rid of these higher temps.
Okay.
It dropped it about 10 degrees putting that on, but.
Okay, and when you say dropped to 10 degrees, dropped your oil temp 10 degrees? Because you don't know what your coolant temp is, right?
Right.
The way I test it, I mean, you could add a temperature sensor and then wire it in, and but even on the scan tool data, the computer doesn't measure that. It's kind of sucky, but that's just what it is on that. It's first generation. They don't give you a ton of information, although I can check your oil temperature.
I pull a skid steer at Farley's, and I would get to maybe 225. Like that, the highest temperature I'd ever seen before the motor ended up blowing up, and it got up to 227, and then it got up to 230 that day. When it did end up blowing up, this last time it got up to like 251 by the time I got to the top of the hill.
Did you replace the oil cooler?
Yes. We've done the oil cooler 3 times now since putting the motor in. Because we thought maybe it got clogged with silicone or something. And then we did the radiator, we did the thermostat, fan clutch.
Yeah, and so this would be a concern to me, like a new radiator, these aftermarket radiators, don't necessarily mean just because it's shiny and aluminum, doesn't mean that it had the heat dissipation that the factory one does. I've seen that happen before. I don't know whether that's a problem. If it's actually dissipating the heat across the whole core, I'd have to access that, get the fan out of the way and put my thermo imager on the whole core to see if it's actually evenly distributing the heat on the inlet side and then cooling it off as it goes to the return side. You've done a lot of things chasing this, what you thought maybe was a problem, but what I would do, because you are towing something and it blew up on you while you were towing something, is I would put an auxiliary. Now you've got a water to oil cooler now on it. That's what comes factory, right? The coolant, when I say water, I'm talking engine coolant. That is what is cooling the oil. So under the very best conditions in the world, the coolest the oil can ever get is the temperature of the water, right? Because you're not going to dissipate any more heat than that. What you can do is you can go to a oil to air cooler. Now, even in Arizona, the hottest temperature you're ever going to get, 120 degrees. So if you want to dissipate more of your oil temperature heat, you've got to go to an air cooler.
Yeah.
That would be what I would do. I know perhaps, not being the shop that built the motor and did anything, but I'm assuming you found us on social media? Right.
Yeah.
We're pretty good at what we do, but and so I'll tell you, can a motor inside, because of friction, create additional heat? Yes, it can. But when it's in that mode of doing that, it's because you have metal to metal surfaces rubbing, and this engine would have come apart a long time ago. So that's not the problem. If you had too tight a bearing, maybe that's what you're thinking, and I can understand where you think that. But what I'm trying to tell you from a guy that's been doing this for 50 years, if you had that kind of a situation going on where, the clearances were too tight, generating heat, the motor would let you know pretty dang quick, and by now this thing would be a grenade. So that's not the problem. I think,
Well, that's good, because all the other shops were thinking that was the case.
No,
And then I could never get legit 5 weeks. They put me off, and I said, okay, well, I trust this Dave guy.
Yeah.
And take it up to them. They'll figure it out.
Anyway, my recommendation, let's add an aftermarket air cool to oil, cooler on it, so we can dissipate some more of that oil heat if you're concerned about it. Yeah.
Okay, well, all that sounds good. Yeah, I mean, we do need to do what's necessary, because I want it to be it's more, I've got a different work truck now, so it's more of I take the toy hauler up into the mountains on the weekend, or take the boat to the lake.
Sure.
I want it to be reliable and be able to pull my stuff.
I think anytime you can cool your fluids off a little better, that you're throwing reliability at it. So that would do it.
Yeah.
What I'll do is I'll have your service assistant is Brandon, who's great. He knows trucks like he lives and breathes them. I'll have him call you with a quote on adding the air cooler that we're talking about for the oil. And I think that would be my recommendation.
This is the third motor, and so we had the original, and then I got a reman 3 years ago now. I had a 2-year warranty, and it blew up at 2 years, 6 months.
Oh, that sucks.
I thought it was a 3-year warranty. It was a 2-year warranty, and it blew up literally 2 years, 6 months, and I was...
And where did that blow up from? What happened there?
So that was when I was pulling my toy. I was headed to Bryce Canyon. I don't know what failed on that motor.
It just...
The block did crack.
Okay,
So
so
why it happened, I don't know.
yeah, was it clanging, banging, bang, bang, knocking?
No, really, nothing was crazy. I was watching my gauges,
Huh.
and so I knew to be careful. And I looked up online where it said, like, okay, start getting cautious around 245. And I summited the hill at 251.
The best thing you could do is, keep your oil temperatures out of that, 240 plus. And by doing that, you want to dissipate that heat. And if you can't, then young man, be patient. What I would tell you to do is pull over and let it idle down. Let the heat out of it,
Yeah.
One more thing in closing, and I'll have Brandon give you this quote for the oil cooler. You got to get that tune out of there. It's running you're wasting money, man. All that black smoke, not only is it terrible for the environment, it's not a good thing. We don't like to see it. It's not good for your kids or your grandkids or whatever. It's just, you're burning money. You're wasting money. It's not doing a dang thing. In fact, it's not doing anything good. Everything that it does is destroying the motor and destroying your environment. So.
Right, because the black smoke is inefficiency. So what?
Exactly.
What do we do to get it more efficient?
Well, we want to get you.
We put a fast fuel system and the injectors on it.
Mm-hmm. I would first start with, if there's a tune in it, you've got this upgrade. Did you put the tune in this thing 2 years? Did you do that?
No, that bully dog's been in for probably 3 or 4 years.
Okay. So when you did the motor, did you have new injectors put in it?
Correct.
And
Yeah,
did you go with like 10, 20, 30, 50% overs?
I think there were 20.
Yeah. Well, there you go. There you go, bro.
Yeah.
You got
There
the.
was, on stock, the only time that truck would ever roll coal was if it was on the highest setting of the tuner and you tried to. And I obviously haven't put very many miles on it with this new motor, so I don't really know what it's doing. But
Yeah. Get it to quit smoking black. I mean, I can look into that if you want after, additional once we get this oil cooler on there for you. If you'd like, I can send this
yeah,
back.
I think so.
Yeah, I'm happy to look at it. There'll be an additional diagnostic charge on it, and then I'll add that to the ticket. But I'll have Brandon circle back with you so that you always know exactly what it's costing.
Yeah,
Okay?
that'd be great.
Anything else I can explain or clear up or?
I trust you guys to get it done right, so I'm sure you will. And all I want is a nice, reliable truck.
Those are the customers we can help. So we'll take care of you. Thank you.
All right. Thanks,
Okay.
Dave.
Bye bye. All right. We'll get him an oil cooler on there and then send it back to Tyson and figure out why that thing is blowing a bunch of black smoke, because that ain't no good.